Before I start, I have to make a confession. I am not a fan of sports anime. I have watched very few, and even though I do like shonen stories, sports anime have never been in my radar. I always tell my friends that for me to watch a new series, a certain criteria has to be met. First, that there are supernatural powers. Second, giant robots. Or third, big anime boobies. Yeah, I'm a simple man. And to be honest, I don't really mind if only one of them appears. I may drop the series later, but for me to even start it, there has to be one of those three criteria. So me talking about Haikyuu is something weird that I never thought that I would do, but after being convinced to give it a try, after spending a lot of time watching Universal Century, I have not finished yet, I thought, well, I might as well give the anime a couple of episodes. I think that by the third or fourth episode, I'll be super bored, and by then, I'll be willing to return to my home, the giant robot genre. So what I was expecting was to press play for the first episode, press next for the second episode, take a little break, and press play for the final time to check out the third episode and move on with my life. But that didn't happen. I pressed play and I couldn't bring myself to stop watching. I really dislike to binge watch series because I believe that you miss out on a lot of details if you continuously watch without breaks, and also you won't remember very well the plot and the characters, at least for me. But there I was, watching Haikyuu like there was no tomorrow. Why was it? I mean, I don't like sports anime. Hell, I don't even like real life sports. Haikyuu doesn't have robots, and there are some parts that feel more like a slice of life than an action shonen story. So why couldn't I stop watching the series? And then it hit me. I felt this strange empathy for Hinata and all of Karasuno, as if their wins were my wins, their journey my journey. They were the underdogs that kept losing but kept standing up. In some strange way, rooting for them meant rooting for me. I wanted them to win because I wanted myself to win. And that's when I realized that, and I can only say this for Haikyuu since I have not watched any other sports anime, I realized that through their actions, I was being motivated to be my best self. I felt empowered through their story, and that's a powerful feeling that I never thought I could experience through fiction, let alone sports anime. So let's talk a little bit more about Haikyuu, and I promise you, I won't spoil anything. Well, maybe just a tad of the first season, but it's quite old, so I'll take my chances. The main story of Haikyuu revolves around Shoujo Hinata, a very energetic and very short little fellow who, after watching a short volleyball player jump super high and score, he was determined to become the best volleyball player in Japan, great enough to be called the Little Giant, just like that player he saw on TV. He goes on to join the Karasuno Volleyball Club, where he met again with Kageyama, a prodigy setter who beat him on junior high. But even though he is considered a prodigy, Kageyama has traumas of his own since he's so intense on the court that he pushes his teammates to hate him. And there they are, two ex-rivals who are now entering a new phase of their lives, and to move forward they have to get along and work together with the rest of the team. That's more or less the premise behind Haikyuu, and you may be thinking that it's quite generic, that it seems like the mangaka took the Goku and Vegeta dynamic and inserted it in a volleyball themed story. And well, I can't say that you're wrong if you only stayed on the surface level of the story. And well, I have to make a little disclaimer here. I have not read the manga, and I probably won't do anytime soon. All of the scenes I'll talk about here and all of the feelings that they brought to me are from the anime, a subbed anime if I'm being more specific. So, if you have read the manga and think that I may be exaggerating, well, you may be correct. As I was saying, in the first couple of episodes you get to know the team, the entirety of the Karasuno Volleyball Club. The main storyline of the first season is that they are all training and trying to get along, since you have the skilled veterans or the third-year students, the second-year students who still have rough edges but already know the flow of the team, and the first-year students who know nothing about the dynamics of team play and are actually diamonds in the rough. Also, the thing about the first-year students is that they are quite eccentric. On the one hand, you have Hinata and Kageyama, who are very skilled in their own way, but are very stubborn and loud. And on the other hand, you have Tsuki and Yamaguchi, who are a little bit above average in terms of skill, but actually they are not that into volleyball. So it's quite a mixture of personalities and skill sets, but the truth is that they all want the same thing: to go to the national tournament that is held in Tokyo. What follows next is probably standard sports anime shenanigans, with the players getting to know each other's strengths and weaknesses, but as I told you already, even though I like action-heavy stories, what kept me pressing play for the next chapter in the story were the moments outside the court, where the boys were training or when they were cheering for the success of others. You see, typical shonen stories tend to be very individualistic in nature, since the fights tend to be 1 versus 1. The thing with Haikyuu is that they are a team, and by definition, there must not be any individual who is above team effort. Or, as you may already heard before, there is no I in team. Characters need to solve their problems by leaning on others, and not in a power of friendship shonen style, but by doing something harder, understanding each other, understanding their doubts and fears, and encouraging them to move past them by leaning on each other. Every member of the Karasuno team is extremely capable in one area, but extremely lacking in another. And slowly but surely they get the hang of that. And as episodes go by, they start to trust each other, so they stop trying to do everything themselves and start to work as this weird team of misfits that, by all logical standards, should not work. But in a very shonen-esque way, they defy logic and work tremendously well. So it's not just about volleyball, it's about understanding that nothing great comes by trying to be the best loner. There's this old and cliché phrase that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. I've heard it countless times before, but it never meant anything to me. Not in the superstar, I built everything myself, entrepreneurial, individualistic society that we live now. But even though I know Haikyuu is fiction, I think that the message is very real. You need the right people around you and the right environment to truly reach your full potential. One of the first scenes where we see this empowerment through friends in action is right at the middle of the first season, where Karasuno's ace has been missing because he couldn't score a point against another school. But in a practice match organized by the unofficial new coach, Hinata catches by pure luck Karasuno's ace Asumane, and he is then forced to play, but his self-esteem is at an all-time low. And even though he has missed training sessions for a month, his teammates still encourage him, and in the middle of the game, he musters all of his willpower to scream to the setter to pass him the ball. It is a very powerful moment because he hasn't spiked for a long time, and the previous time that he tried to spike was where he met this impenetrable wall of hands that he could not surpass. Even so, Sugawara does not doubt for a second and hits his call by tossing him the ball. And in a very epic scene, we see Asumane rise through the air and hit the ball with all his might, destroying completely the barrier made by Kageyama, Ryo, and Tsukishima. Karasuno's ace is back and on full throttle. That's when you realize that action defeats fear and inaction breeds fear. Asumane was afraid to return to the court and continue hitting the ball, but in reality, he needed to return to the court to continue hitting the ball to overcome his fear of hitting the ball. It sounds really stupid and obvious, but overthinking clouds your mind and you truly forget about the simple things. The easiest way to overcome your fear is by facing it directly, not by dwelling in the past thinking how you could have done better. This kind of emotional scenes keep happening throughout the entire series and they appear most prominently on the official matches against rival schools. And well, yeah, at the most superficial level, most of the matches are two teams trying to score the most points to win the set and consequently the match. But what's really happening is that both teams are made of fallible humans who have very different backstories and motivation. So, as the game progresses, they start to feel this pressure to be their best. But that same pressure makes them fear or doubt themselves because they know that they lack on a certain area. So, in a very weird but totally shonen way, the match actually becomes kind of like a therapy for the teammates to try and bring the best out of the same teammates. They learn to trust others and to work together toward the same goal. That's probably the best part of Haikyuu and why I kept pressing play. The ability to send these powerful messages of trust and camaraderie through actions inside a match. I am a firm believer that fiction can explain things better than real life and that a good story can be as enlightening as a complete course in self-development, more or less. And Haikyuu, at least to me, is a great example of a powerful message being delivered through a great piece of fiction. I don't like sports anime. I never liked them and probably I won't watch another one. But Haikyuu transcended that category and motivated me to be a better human, so I totally believe that you can probably leave aside workout, life or every other style of motivation and definitely get yourself super hyped with a little Haikyuu therapy. Wow, a couple of years ago I would never have thought that I'd be doing a sports anime video, let alone trying to explain how it changed my life for the better. But hey, that's the magic of anime and fiction. Once they grab you, you are changed forever, and sometimes it's a very profound change to be a better person. As you may or may not know, my name is Absa, and you can continue the conversation over at Twitter, where you can follow me at Absalonicas, or you can read it right here. And also I'm on Instagram, where I post pictures of my figures, my cats, and sometimes even myself. I'll be trying to talk more about anime, comics, maybe even figures, and definitely Gundam. Gundam stories need more love, and thank you very much for checking out my video about the evolution of the styles of Gundam. I really thank you very much. And till next time, I'm Absa, and always remember that in fiction lies power. So let's use it to forge our own personal hero story.